going to record our class for review. Board is ready. Okay, we're done with the components of the society. Now let's go to how society developed. Before we continue, let's have a review. We discussed about the first form of society that people form. Okay. Please mute that one. Okay, let's start with the first society, a primitive group of people practicing a particular culture. Okay, the first one, hunter and gatherers. Okay, let's try that one. Let's say this is the timeline of humanity. Okay. Starting from the first society, let's call this one prehistoric. Historic. When we say prehistoric, people are not yet recording their history. Okay, people are not yet documenting their history. Okay, that's prehistoric. And when people start to record their history, we call that period historic. Okay, people start to document their history. Historic, and then time goes on, and let's say the present is around here, present. Okay, how did you arrive at the present? Okay, let's go back to prehistory. Since our subject is science, technology, and society, let's start our discussion with the very first society. Okay, our very first society or group of people that have been working together, sharing a particular culture, is the hunter-gatherer tribes. The hunter-gatherer tribes. Why they are called tribes? because they are composed of less than, estimated to be less than 100 people. Okay, they are small in size. Okay, they are called hunters because they do not raise their food, right? In old society, prehistoric society. That's our picture. Hunter gatherer. Okay, they don't raise their food, instead they hunt them. So that's why they are called hunter. So if you are a man during this time, you would most likely be a hunter. On the other hand, if you are a woman during the prehistoric times, then you would most likely be a gatherer. So you gather berries, you gather fruits. Okay, for the tribe. This is for the role of the women. Okay. During this era, resources are shared. So sometimes they are known as communal. They are known as communal. Because what happens is that, let's say if some of them successfully hunted a, what is that, a mammoth. That's the ears of the mammoth, no? If some of the hunters hunted the mammoth, let's say these are the hunters, right? These are their spears. Okay. What they do is they share the mammoth to everyone in the tribe. Okay. Same with the women. Okay. Whatever they get, their berries, they share it to their tribesmen. Okay, so the main goal of the tribe is to feed everyone. In other words, you can even call this society a communist society. Okay, and they can do that. Communism is not a problem to them because literally the people on your tribe are your kin. So it's your blood. It could be your uncle, it could be your auntie, it could be your brother, your sister, your niece, your nephew. Okay? So there's no problem about that. They can share their resources for each other. Kumbaga, they care about one another. So this is the first form of society. It's family-based. Okay? And another characteristic of the hunter-gatherer tribes is that they are nomadic. Aside from being blood related, They are nomadic. It's not a problem to them to move to different places because there are few in numbers, around less than 100. Less than 100 because it's easier for you to die during this time. If a tiger sees you, then tiger can eat you. If you step on a snake, then a snake can bite you. And then if they don't know what is the cure for that, then you immediately are going to die. If you get bitten by a mosquito with a malaria, then you will most likely going to die. So in average, a hunter-gatherer tribe is estimated to have less than 100 members. Okay, and they can move easily. That's why they are nomadic. When we say nomadic, that means that our first society moves from place to place. Okay. So they are nomadic. For example, if a certain place run out of food to hunt, okay, let's say this is the mammoth area, okay. Let's say the tribe stayed here. And let's say the mammoth, some of the mammoth move to other places, they run, they get scared of the tribe, and some of the berries or all of the berries were taken out in the area. Then the tribes start to move to other places, kinda like badyaw. So parang badyaw, the ones you see, ang tawag yan, playing drums in a jeepney or in a establishment. So they're like the badyaws. Okay, so there is movement. In other words, they travel a lot. Okay, their behavior is very similar to the badyaw. Okay, so the badyaw, what they do? This is a Filipino tribe. They are nomadic. They don't stay in a specific place. What the badyaw do is they play their drums. They carry a drum. Right? They go to a store or establishment. They play their drum, and then people give them. Let's draw the badyaw. Alright, the badyaw here. There could be a lot of them here. Sometimes they dance, right? So they play their drum, the cymbals, and some of them sing or dance, and people give them money. After that, they move to another place and they do the same thing. After that, they move to another place and do the same thing. So this is like the hunter-gatherers, right? So they are nomadic. Okay, so what's the next tribe? What have I missed? Okay, hunter-gatherers. Okay, population is around is less than 100. They easily there is a good chance that during this time you will get killed either while hunting, while sleeping, like you get bitten by the mosquito, while doing other things like for example, you're resting and then a tiger is near you, or you could get eaten by the tiger. Who was that? Sandali, sino ba yung connect? Okay, so the population is very small, so they can do a lot of things. No? Hierarchies are not very there's not much is not much difference when it comes to power. So again, they are families, they are relatives. So that's the correct term. They are relatives. So none of them tries to accumulate as much power as possible. No? Instead, they take care of one another. They naturally do that because, as I've said, they are blood relatives. They're not much hierarchy during this time. For education, there were no teachers, there were no formal teachers. Instead, know-how and the know-how of hunting are taught by the elders. The know-how of gathering food are taught by the mothers. So that's the first one, hunter and gatherers. Okay, next we have the pastoral society. It's different from hunter and gatherers. For one major reason, right? Hunter and gatherers, they go to different places to hunt their food. However, the next society, called pastoral society, instead of hunting them, they raise some of their food. They can still go out and hunt. However, in pastoral, they raise livestock. For example, they could raise horses, they could raise cows, they could raise sheep. Okay. So they figured out a way to feed themselves other than constantly hunting their food. Okay, that's the pastoral society. From the word pastor. Okay, they raise their food. Okay. So here we have cows. Here we have a pastor. And I don't know what is this. I think this is a giraffe. Because of the long neck and hairy part. I think these are goats, the smaller ones. So this is the pastoral society. They are also nomadic, just like the hunter-gatherers. They also move from place to place. However, when they move from place to place, they carry their livestock. The livestock move with them. Okay. I need space. I'm going to delete this part. Okay. Since they started to raise their food, that means there is an abundance of food compared to the hunter-gatherer tribes. So pastoral societies can support larger population. Okay, it can support larger population, approximately somewhere around 100 or so. Okay, it could be 100. They could have a 100. They could be a pastoral society composed of 150 members. They could be a pastoral society composed of only 80 members, but on average, somewhere around the number of people in a pastoral society is around 100. Okay. So they raise their food like horses, cows, sheep, goats. Okay. So since they raise their food, this implies that they have more abundant food. They have more abundant food. Well, if your food is abundant, two things happen. Number one, you have increase in population. Right? You have increase in population, and number two, other people don't have to work. Other people don't have to work. By don't have to work, I mean it's not that they don't have to work. They don't have to hunt. This is not the correct word. They don't have to hunt. Okay? So since there's abundant food, everyone doesn't have to hunt. Okay? There's no need to do that. Okay? So what do other people do? Those who are not assigned to guard, those who are not assigned to guard the livestock, and those who are not assigned to hunt, okay, what they did is do something else. Wait, I'm going to do something. They can't hunt. They're asked to make the weapons for the hunters. Okay? Some are asked to make tools like cooking tools, clothing, and so on. Some were asked to make tools. Okay. So some people specialize on being a pastor. Some of them is still hunting. Some of them is still gathering the berries. Some of them are making weapons. Some of them are making tools. That is specialization. Okay, and we mentioned about this one, the surplus of food. Since they are raising their food, there is a lot more food compared to the previous society, compared to our first society, the hunter and gatherer. Okay, what is the third society? Okay, the third society is horticultural. I don't think this is not historic yet. Okay, so it's still prehistoric. The next one is so aside after pastoral, the next one is horticultural. Okay, for horticultural, they did something else. Aside, I noticed that from hunter-gatherer into pastoral, people start raising animals. Right? From pastoral to horticultural, what happened is that in the horticultural era, people start to plant. So instead of gathering the berries, people start to plant crops. People start to plant crops. Okay. So if you know how to raise, so people started to plant crops. Again, there is since you are now planting your crops, then that means that you have surplus or excess food. If you have excess food, then you can support higher population. you can support higher population. And since you have higher food, that means everyone does not have to work. Okay, some people have to specialize on something else, like what happened to our pastoral society. They don't have to look for food. They could do the same thing. Other people could make the weapons for hunting, make weapons, make tools, for example, tools for cooking. Alright, make weapon, make tools, make items, like what's that? Like accessories. So items, you can make items like display items, accessories. Okay, and during this time, we have the first instance of again, everyone doesn't have to work, so this results in high populations. Some people have to make other stuff, and then we have the first instance of a shaman. Okay, so around horticultural period, there are shamans. Okay, shamans showed up. Meron tayong shamans. Unlike the first two period where almost everyone is required to work. Okay, so this is horticultural period. Let's see. Okay, here. So ayan, here we don't see the weapon yet. We have the tools. Rotation. So what they did, during the horticultural period, they plant crops, and to do that, they use a particular system. Alright, to plant crops, they use a particular system called that particular system is called slash and burn. Okay, slash and burn, or in Visayan language, Filipinos also do this. Historical Filipinos or native Filipinos also do this, slash and burn, or kaingin. We call this one kaingin in the Philippines. Okay, so that's called kaingin. How to do kaingin for the planting of crops. Okay, let's see. Say you have a mountain. Okay, mountain with forest on it, Okay, in slash and burn, you burn the forest. Okay, now the fact that you are burning the forest means that this method is dangerous to our environment. That's why kaingin, although legal during the kaingin is not a problem. Kaingin is allowed during the horticultural period. Kaingin nowadays is illegal because you are literally burning forests. So you burn the forest. Okay, let's say this section, you burn this section of the forest. So after creating a patch, you have here the ashes. Okay, using the ashes as the fertilizer, you can start to plant your crops. Okay? You can start to plant your crops. It could be root crops. It could be fruit-bearing plants like corn. Okay, or wheat. So there you go. That's slash and burn. Okay, they are also nomadic. So like the first three, hunter and gatherers, they travel from place to place. The pastoral, they also travel from place to place, but they carry their livestock. In the horticultural, they travel from place to place, but they do it after harvesting. So after planting here, after planting on their on this plot, after planting here, okay, they move to another place, and then after harvesting, they move to another place. Okay, what is different between the first two is that first two society, what is different with respect to the first two societies is that horticultural societies tend to return to their original place. They tend to go back to their original place after some period of time. They could have here another kaingin on this new place. They could have another kaingin and then plant there. Okay, then plant there. So that is the horticultural period. I think we need more space, so this is not yet the present. Okay, we need more space. We need more space. Okay, let me check the notes. Did I forget something? Okay, there's crop rotation. They move to a different place, but they may return to this place, the original place. Okay, we see here they're planting and harvesting wet. Okay, craftsman, they have craftsman. I think we mentioned this before. Ayan, since there are lots of food, some people can make the tools, the items, the weapons. Okay, so we have the craftsman, then you have the shaman, and then we have the traders. Okay, so people who, for example, if we have here a craftsman who is very good at making a lot of, let's say, a lot of spears. I know spear is a weapon, so around here, let's say a craftsman is very good at making spear. They can trade the spear. A trader may trade the spear to someone who is very good at making pots. Someone is very good at making pots, then they may trade this to barter system. They don't use money. It is item to item exchange. Okay, so that's horticultural. Now we have the traders. Okay, what's the next society? Okay, we have the agrarian. Let's show the image agrarian. Okay, so as you can see, agrarian is a little different. It's very much similar to horticultural, where they started to plant crops. However, the difference between agrarian is that they tend to settle near rich soil, soil near the rivers. Okay, why do they settle near the rivers? Because rivers carry nutrients and spread it across the soil around here. Okay, so people during the agricultural era tend to settle around these places. For example, the earliest civilization, the Mesopotamia. Okay, discuss agricultural. Okay, so back after hunter and gathering, people start to raise animals, then people start to raise plants, and then people start to combine the two. They raise plants and then animals. By the way, I haven't noted that horticultural is, you can say horticultural is semi-nomadic. They move but they return from time to time. There is a rotation. You can say they are semi-nomadic, but there is no such word, so I'm just going to write here nomadic. They are still, I think I misspelled it. Okay, they still move from place to place. Okay, next we have the agricultural. Okay, the agricultural. Okay, during this time period, instead of raising only animals or only plants. Okay, they start to raise both. So there are two main characteristics. They now use the technology from two previous eras. They utilize both technology, both animals. Now we have plants, animals, plants, animals and plants. Okay, and the second one is they're no longer nomadic. Okay, during the agricultural period, they stay. In other words, they settle. Okay, where do the first tribes settle? Most of our ancient civilization settle on areas near rivers. So let's explain agriculture. Let's take for example Africa. Let's say this is Africa. Africa looks like this. Okay, let's take for example Africa. Okay, Africa. In Africa, we have here around here we have here the Nile River. Alright, around here on top we have the Nile River. Okay, during the fourth stage of social development, during the agricultural period, people start to settle here. That's why the Nile is located in Egypt. The Nile is located in Egypt. Okay, the Nile is located in Egypt. So if you're going to look at ancient civilizations, you can look at Egypt. Okay, this is where it's not the first, I would not say the first. Okay, the most developed agricultural society settled in the Nile River. Okay, that's why the Egyptians were able to create the pyramids. They were able to create the pyramids like that. Okay, during the earlier period. Okay, they settle near rivers again because the soil near rivers are rich in fertilizer, rich in nutrients for the plants. Okay, so that is agricultural. Okay, they both have animals and plants, and they stay and settle. What else? What are the characteristics of agrarian? Sorry, it's not agricultural, it's agrarian. Okay, so we have dual. We have both the animals and then the plants. Okay, borders. Okay, by very nature of settlement, you must protect your borders from the nomadic tribes and from other settlers. Okay, for example, let's say you have here your land, your crops. Okay, and let's say you have your animals. Okay, and then you have the next one, your neighbor's crops. Then let's say you have your neighbor's animals. Let's say this is chicken. Oh, that's chicken. Imagine that's chicken. Okay, so you have to take care of this border. And also the border of your society. with respect to the outside world. You have to protect your borders. So now, because you settled, you have now to take care of the borders. Okay, so this is in contrast to hunter-gatherers. In contrast to hunter-gatherers, they don't have those kind of ideas. They don't have borders. They kinda like travel around and get their food. So in other words, their kumbaga private property is not yet what's that? It's not yet practiced. There is private property, but when it comes to the means of production, the food, they do not consider it as theirs. For example, the rivers, they didn't consider it as theirs. The plains, they don't consider it as theirs. When it comes to the agricultural time, now you must take care of your private properties, so borders. Okay, both plants and animals. Okay, since you take care of both plants and animals, then that means that you can support. Since you take care of both plants and animals, that means that you can support even larger populations. Even larger populations. Sometimes it can be as large as a civilization. So you can have a civilization. This system, the agrarian, sorry, this is not agricultural. Oh my gosh, this is not agricultural. This is agrarian. That's agrarian. Okay. Agrarian societies can support a large number of population. It can be as large as a civilization. It can be as large as a civilization. Okay. Since you have also a lot of food, you have a lot of animals and plants, that means more and more people don't have to work. Alright? So more and more people have free time. So what do other people do? Again, similar to this. Right? So, okay. They own weapons. They make weapons. Tools. All sorts of items and accessories. Clothing. Some people do this. So you have to control your borders. You raise both livestock and plants. Stratification. When you say stratification, unlike let's go back to the past. Unlike, where's that? Okay, the hunter-gatherer tribes. They don't have a kind of like a boss, a director. Everyone in the hunter-gatherer tribes work. So everyone works in the hunter-gatherer tribes. So if you can think of it as a layer in society, everyone is at the bottom here. Alright. Here. These are the members of the hunter-gatherer society. Everyone have to work. Because if you don't work, you die. Okay, everyone have to work. Alright, everyone have to contribute to the tribe. If you don't work, then you will be expelled from the tribe. Okay, so everyone works. Okay, when it comes to agrarian, we have a large surplus of food, plants and animals. So what happens during the agrarian period is that let's draw a pyramid like this. Pyramid. Okay. What happened is there exists something called stratification. like the sedimentary rocks. So there is a hierarchy. So there's a hierarchy. So a good example would, let's have a tree hierarchy only. You can have a lot. You can include the pharaoh. You can create a bigger hierarchy. So I'm going to create a smaller one for the sake of illustration. Okay, how does the hierarchy work? Say for example, weapons maker. Weapons maker. Unlike in the past, there is only in the horticultural and the pastoral. If you are a weapons maker, if you are a weapons maker, you could be a solo individual. So you could be a person. Sitting under a shade, and then you start making your item. Okay, that is what you do during this period, pastoral and horticultural. You make the item for your tribe or for trade. Okay, when it comes to agrarian period, there is a stratification. For example, there is the owner of land. There's a owner of land. Let's say you have the owner. Let's say owner of the place you're staying, and then there is a manager. He himself could be a craftsman. Okay, and under the craftsman, he also have novices. He also have his own workers, like his novice. You can also have novice. Meron siyang alalay kumbaga. So there is a stratification. So in other words, as more the more society develops, the greater the inequality, the greater the possible inequality. Ayan. Okay. So it is possible because number one, unlike in the hunter-gatherer tribes where people are your bloodline, it's not a problem if you share your food to them. You can easily that. For example, in your family, right? Let's say you have a salary, a good amount of salary. You can buy free stuff for your brothers and sisters. You can buy You can buy clothing for them. You can buy food for them, etc. Because they are your bloodlines. So you can do it in hunter-gatherer tribes. But when it comes to agrarian, we have a lot of family. We have a civilization, all sorts of family. So you will be more reluctant to just dole out your hard work, what you earn, to other people. So if you earned a lot, you have the tendency to go up the social ladder. You own a lot of things, so that's why you tend to go up the social ladder. Again, during this agrarian period, we have now a at least three layer. There could be more. There could be a pharaoh on top, and then we have the advisors, and then the priests, and then the soldiers, and so on and so forth. So there is stratification. Okay, let's move. So this agrarian people start to record their history. Like the hieroglyph, the Egyptian hieroglyphs, the illustration, what they were doing in the past, like people harvesting things, people embalming people, like that. What else? People plowing fields, and so on. So they start to record history. So this is the historic period. And like in the previous period, they don't care much about it. They could be drawing, but it is more of a pastime. It's not a documentation. Okay, so historic era. Okay, after agrarian, what do you think happened? After agrarian, let's see. let's check if I missed something. Stratification. Oh, okay. Women. So during the agrarian period, where's that? Yeah. During the agrarian period, men can be craftsmen. Men can make weapons, can make tools, can make items, can be soldiers. Well, on the other hand, women have limited options. Limited options. So what happened during the agrarian period is that the social status between men and women starts to change. So, kumbaga, men started to be preferred over women. The society started to prefer men over women, unlike on the hunter-gatherer tribes. In the hunter-gatherer tribes, everyone is needed, everyone is important, because everyone literally have to work. So men and women have almost the same status. Okay. However, during the agrarian period, men are the society start to prefer men over women because they do a lot of physical labor. They can do a lot of physical labor, and they are more risk-taking than women. On average, men are more risk-taking on average than women. So during the agrarian period, so we have the inequality starts to develop. So there is progress, but in exchange, in exchange for progress, in exchange for supporting a large population, what happens is increasing inequality. Increasing inequality. Okay. Inequality is a double-edged sword. It can be a good one, it can also be a bad one. We can discuss that on detail maybe in the future. Why inequality is a double-edged sword. Okay, let's continue. Agrarian. After the agrarian period, we have the feudal. Let me check. I may have forgotten something. Okay, so during the agrarian period, women, the status of women starts to become lesser compared to men. Let's go to the feudal society. Okay, feudal. Okay, feudal society. Have you wondered why the Japanese have the samurais? Why the Japanese have invented katanas? They have they have shoguns, unlike that. Why do the medieval people have knights? Okay, why do you think they developed that? It's because of the feudal system. Okay, so what's the feudal system? It's very similar to a civilization where people raise animal and plants. But in feudal, it's a very specific system. You can think if this is like everything goes here, you can have a large plot, you can have a small plot, and so on. In feudal system, you follow a very particular hierarchy, a very specific hierarchy. What's going on here? Okay. So what happens in feudal system is that the control of property is the control of private property is more pronounced. Anyone who have a considerable lot size, can follow the feudal system. If you have a smaller lot, then you better combine with other people with smaller lot, because if you don't, then it will be your loss. You will lose. So what's happening now in the feudal system? Okay, in the feudal system, we see a rise in military. Rise. military. Okay, so what really happened here? So instead of a loose society, of loose hierarchy like this, or the division between people is more pronounced and is more clear. So in the feudal society, the division of the people is more clear. It's clearer. It's more defined. So in the feudal society, the division is more clear. Okay, so we have here a 4-layer strata. 4-layer strata. Okay, during the hunter-gatherers, we have the all of them of workers. All of them are workers. But in the feudal society, at the bottom, at the worker level, we have the people called peasants. Okay, we have the people called peasants. Peasants is equivalent to, what is that? Okay, to people in horticultural society. But there's a major difference, because unlike the people in horticultural society, peasants are not free. Okay, they literally depend, their food literally depend on what the people on the higher strata give them. So in other words, meron na tayong pag-aalipin of peasants. They're not free. They're not free people. So this is a sad development in history. So during the feudal period, we have peasants, and then the one who is controlling them, the one who keep them on that level, okay, we have the knights. So where's that? That's just a different color. We have the knights. Okay, we have the knights. So you can see the what's that? The dividing line. If you allow it, the dividing line is very clear. If you are a peasant, then you are not a knight. Alright. Knights control the peasants. Alright. The question is, where do knights get their food? Well, they get their food and support from the nobles. So above the knights follow the order of the nobles. We can group this one. I-group na natin masa. Above the nobles is the king. So we have the king on top. We have the king. And then below the king are the nobles. Basically the people you see in the courtroom. The nobles. And then we have the knight, keeping these people to work. And work and work and work. To the end of their life. So sometimes the word peasant is used to insult poor people. Like, get away from me, peasant. That means alipin ito. This is a sad fact of humanity. During the feudal era, people are now being it's like having a livestock, but your livestock is not animal. You have people working for you. So that's a very sad. So the peasant, what happens in this system, in this well-defined system, is that peasants are the ones who till the ground, take care of the animals, but the harvest goes to the kings and nobles, and then the kings and nobles give it to the knight, and then some goes to the peasants. It's a horrible system if you think about it. The less freedom, no? In this feudal society. Okay, next. Oops, we really need more space. Okay, after feudal society, after this one, feudal society, we have the industrial era. Or industrial age. Okay, instead of using peasants, okay, what happened is a different system, but similar in structure. Wait, let me check if I missed something on the feudal system. Oh, it's barons. Did I put nobles? Oh, same thing. The king, the baron, nobles. All in all, they're called the nobles. King, the barons, the knights, and then the peasants. Peasants work for the lands of the barons and the knights. So again, as I explained this one, how this system works. Okay, so there is a tight control on ownership of a specific land. There's also a tight hierarchy. You cannot just cross a threshold from peasant to knight. And then there is the instant of exploitation. Again, you're not during this era, you can exploit other people because during this time they're not your kin. They're no longer your people. So it's easier for one tribe to exploit members of another tribe. So mga nobles have the same bloodline, and then the peasants are of different bloodline. So this is very sad, no? So, if you are asked, would you follow the feudal system if all of the people are your relatives? I don't think so. Yeah, that's the weakness of creating a huge society, of creating a civilization. Different people mix. Okay, now let's go to the industrial age. Okay. There's Arnold. So, agrarian, they use plantation and then animals. In the feudal society, it's characterized by this specific hierarchy, the control of private property, tight control on private property, and the rise of the military. Now we have the knights controlling the peasants. Okay, in the industrial era, what do we have here? Okay, of course, it's the same thing, similar with the past. People are still raising, same with the feudal society. People are raising animals and plants, animals and crops. Let's use the word crops. Right? People are raising animals and crops. However, there is another development. Instead of individuals crafting their products alone, instead of manually crafting items, okay, during the industrial period, during the industrial times, during the industrial period, some of the labor is replaced by the machines. Okay, there is the rise of the use of machines. Okay. Similar to the people, similar to when animals and crop raising were developed, diba? After animal and crops raising were developed, a lot of people don't have to work, right? A lot of people don't have to work. Okay, a lot of people don't have to work on raising animals and crops. When it comes to the industrial period, when the machines were invented, a lot of craftsmen, a lot of people who create the weapons, the items, and the accessories are not doing anything. So a lot of people have no things to do, have nothing to do. So a lot of craftsmen, a lot of people. the problem? Okay. So the advantage of the industrial era is we have a lot of items. So look at us right now. We are the product of the industrial era. We have a lot of clothes, we had a lot of gadgets, a lot of accessories, a lot of things. However, there is a weakness for this system, for this kind of society. Since a lot of people have nothing to do, so what they do is they lend, instead of doing raising animals, raising crops, and doing crafts, because they have been replaced by the machines. What they do is they sell time. Okay. What happened during this period is that a lot of people sell their time. What do we mean by that? They become employees of the business owners. Okay, they become employees of the business owner. And during that time, during the 1500s and 1600s, during that time, people here are like the employers are like the kings and the nobles and the knights on this period. Okay, with the industrial era boom, the business owners called the bourgeoisie, the bourgeoisie, the business owner called the bourgeoisie. During this time, the bourgeoisie are very cruel. The business owners, I hope I spell it right, bourgeoisie, I think it's spelled right. So we call this one the people on top, the business owners, or the owners of machinery, owners. Okay, and the rest, the people who don't own the machines, the rest of the people who sell time, are called the they're called the proletariat. I hope I spelled that right. Basically, these are the people, kumbaga, the equivalent of peasants, no? The equivalent of peasants, the proletariat, or the employees. Okay, so what happened during the industrial period is that there is a increased difference in power. So there is very high inequality compared to the previous society. Because of that very high inequality, people start to exploit other people. Ayan, mayroon tayong peasants, and then during this period, during the industrial age, sometimes children are forced to work. They're forced to work under horrible working conditions, no? Sometimes they go inside factories. What is that? Okay, here they go inside factories, they go inside these tubes, to clean the walls, the interior walls of the tubes. Sometimes they go in the mine, just to have something to eat. So because of this abuse, guess what? There's a reaction, no? So because of the increasing from hunter-gatherer to pastoral to agricultural to agrarian to feudal and to industrial, because of the increasing inequality, there was a reaction. And the reaction was that, so it went on extreme, diba? It was gaining momentum. Inequality was gaining momentum, like that. So inequality was gaining momentum. So at some time it collapsed, bang. Okay, because there was a reaction. Okay, the reaction was that, ano may flag nun? I think it's like this. I forgot how did they draw the sickle and the The reaction for that is what is called communism. Okay, because of the horrible conditions in this society, and the abuse of power, the abuse of inequality, and there was a reaction. So the communists, their idea is that to return the society here, to hunter-gatherer, the communal society. Well, it turned out, well, okay. However, the plan did not turn out well. So it went horribly, worse than what they were trying to cure. Ito. However, during this time, it's not the same. The conditions are not the same as this one. No? During this time, we have a better working conditions. So there is a protection about abuse. That's why we have child law. There is a law against child labor. Okay. Then people can form unions. What else? There is a time limit in working. What's that? Working hours. There is a time limit. Working hours. You must pay the overtime. There's a lot of protection on the employees. This is a better reaction to communism, because this one turned horribly. People cannot return to the to this era. No, this era. Maybe we can do that if there is only few people on earth, and then the people or next to you are your blood relatives. There are your tribe mates, kumbaga, because it's easier for you to give them what you have. But this time it's very hard to go back to that time. So we have a better reaction. So still, even though some of the society attempted to create communism, what happens is that it went horribly. It went horribly wrong. One of the problems is that there are a lot of people compared to resources. If there is a lot of resources, then you can form a set of people to consume those resources. Okay, so from communist countries, a lot of communist countries like the Soviet Union turned back to capitalism. China also have a mixed economic system. China is like socialist and capitalist. But the pattern is that previous communist society is start to go back. So nag-reaction lang siya, kasi pataas ng pataas, like that. And then there was a correction, kumbaga correction. And then we have another set. We have continue with the capitalism. But note the inherent problem of the development of society. Although you can support a large number of population, you can support around 7.9 billion. We have 7.9 billion people using hierarchical system. I forgot what I was trying to say. Okay, even though you can support 7.9 billion, there is still huge problem of inequality. Kumbaga, some people have a lot of power, a lot of influence, while other people have almost none. And that is a problem, because people with higher influence, if they are particularly selfish, they're very selfish. If they're particularly very selfish, they try to use their power and influence to change or affect policies. For example, rich people creating policies in the government to reduce tax. So that is the weakness of developing of this kumbaga, development in our society. Okay, so industrial. After that, let me check. So industrial period, we have people who own the means of production. When we say means of production, these are the factories, means of production. They tend to accumulate power. Okay, and it is characterized by free markets. Unlike in socialism, people People are told what to produce. When we say free markets, okay, during the industrial era, it is characterized by free markets. Right here on top. Okay, when we say free markets, let's say free markets, free that means people can produce anything. People can produce anything. People can produce whatever they want, produce anything. People can produce anything, and they also can buy anything. So in a free market, in a society with free markets, if you would like to create a whatever, if you would like to create pendant or a chip or whatever, you can do that, and you can buy also whatever you want. This is in contrast with a planned market. It's not actually a market, it's more like planned economy. Planned economy, like in socialism. A planned economy has different setup. Is that the setup is that instead of allowing the people,
Sir, excuse me po.
yes.
Sir, may pasok pa kasi kami next class po.
Oh, okay, I see. So I got carried up with that explanation. Okay, we're going to continue the discussion next meeting. So that was the development of our society, from hunter-gatherers, umabot na tayo sa industrial era. Okay, so I think sino ba yung nagsabi nun?
Sir, ako rin po, sir. Nag-start na po yung next class.
Okay, sige. In this case, we're going to continue the discussion next meeting. Okay? See you next meeting. Goodbye, class.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.